Performing an act of kindness for other people has proven health benefits to ourselves as well as the person you're being kind to. But often, the person that we're least kind to is ourselves. And I think we will look back on this time and think, oh my God, I can't believe that there weren't these restrictions in place and that it was quite lawless. Instead of it being a crisis, perhaps reinvention is calling and it's time to look at how you do things
Yeah.
and make some tweaks so that you're ready to enter a new chapter. Because I'd always been the conduit of other people's stories and I was very used to telling those and very comfortable in that role. But actually, everything changed, and I had my big aha moment when I shared my own story. Your career is such a big part of your life if you work, and if that isn't hitting your values, it's going to impact you.
Hi, I'm Cary, and welcome to the Eat Nourish Love podcast. For over 20 years, I've created events, raised over 4 million for good causes, and been lucky enough to meet some incredible people along the way. This podcast is about exploring stories and insights that really shape us, with inspiring guests from wellness, business, self-care, and personal growth. It's about learning to trust our intuition and discovering what truly matters, and how, with hard work, belief, and tenacity, we can make so many things happen. So I'm so excited to welcome Rosie Nixon on the Eat Nourish Love podcast this week. Welcome to the podcast, Rosie.
Thank you for having me.
Gosh, you're a coach, mentor. Your life has completely changed over the last few years, having been editor-in-chief of the Hello magazine and go to so many incredible publications. I'm dying to hear all your story and things like that. But when did you start working for Hello? When did that all start?
Gosh, well, that started, I was at Hello for 16 years, so a really huge part of my working life. So started sort of back in 2008, I think it was. Yeah. And at that time, the magazine world was very different to it is now. It's an amazing time actually to be working in magazines because there was so much power in print. Print really ruled the newsstand, and we couldn't really believe that we'd all been consuming our media on a mobile phone at that time. So it was an amazing opportunity. I started off there as assistant editor, then became joint editor, then editor in chief. So really found my home there and loved managing editorial teams across loads of big occasions. It was a really exciting place to be, and I thrived in that role for a really long time.
But you love writing, don't you? I mean, that's where it all comes from.
Totally. I think, yeah, if you ask my parents what I was like as a child, they will always say that I was a prolific writer, always writing letters, crafting my own magazines from the pages of smash hits, where I used to cut out the song lyrics and stick them into another magazine. And writing stories. I think, yeah, storytelling really still is at the heart of what I do now, even as a coach. And I'm a real believer in sharing our stories as a way that we create meaning in the world and the way that we build connections with each other. So journalism really appealed to me for all of those reasons. It was great being a conduit of other people's stories.
So what was your upbringing? What was the background? Were your parents into writing? Was your father an author or?
No, they were both teachers, actually, my parents. My mum was an English teacher. My dad, a headmaster of a big comprehensive school in London. We didn't go to that school. We went to another one because we didn't want to go to the one where our dad was a head. Grew up in North London, yeah, to teacher parents who I guess always read to us and enjoyed the arts. I was lucky enough to go to the theatre lots when I was a child, and so the arts and literature and theatre was always a big part of our lives. So I guess when you've started reading from a young age, it's then does often set you up for life as something you will always have. And certainly books are still my go-tos whenever I'm navigating anything in my life. I will try and seek out the book that could help support me through that. So, but also creatively, I just love the art of writing a novel and the great escapism that that can provide too. I find it almost like a cathartic. It's almost been my hobby actually, writing my novels, because I did those alongside my career because they did provide some escapism from the day to day.
But that's what people forget about reading, isn't it? Like, particularly the sort of fiction, because actually you're in a book and then suddenly you can't put it down. You just want to run back up and start reading it again, or find another corner to go and finish the story. And you've got, haven't you got 6 books now you've written?
Yeah, my 6th year is written and will be coming out this August. That's a non-fiction book, The Pro Method, which is all very based on what we'll come onto in this discussion, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
The reinvention that I've been through, and it's a self-coaching framework. But yeah, I've written 4 novels and, the Be Kind book, which is my other work of
I
non-fiction.
love that. Do you know something? It's just I've actually listened to something else that you were on the other day, and it was thinking, that word kindness, to be kind, it doesn't take very much, does it? Just to say
No.
hello, or I did something the other day which is so weird. People think you're odd, Caroline. I was looking through Waterloo, and I just looked at this girl and I thought she's got such a pretty dress on, and I was thinking it, and I just turned around and I said, "You look so lovely. It's such a pretty dress." And I thought, how often do people say that? We think
No.
about things, whatever, and it's just,
Oh,
and you don't realise, but if someone had said that to me, it probably made my day, a week, months.
really? And how did it make you feel saying that to somebody?
Well, exactly. I didn't do it coming from me, because that was, but I just sort of thought, gosh, we keep these things in. It's a bit
Yeah.
like, you know, people say, "Oh, I see you all over Instagram and I love everything you're doing." And you go, but nobody comments. Everyone just watches. So I do try and just drop a comment when I can. We can't always do that.
Yes, you're right, we have to remember that, but I think the great thing about kindness is that what goes around comes around, so not only did you make that lady feel lovely, but you felt really great, you lit up as you were telling me about that. It's
Yeah,
performing an act of kindness for other people has proven health benefits to ourselves, as well as the person you're being kind to. But
yeah,
often, the person that we're least kind to is ourselves, and really that's what my Be Kind book tackles, that feeling of what self-compassion actually is and how it really is a learnt behavior often, and we've got to learn to give ourselves the same compassion that we might extend to others, because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's go back to your magazine life, because it really was, the magazines, you all subscribed to them. We got them, the Hello, the Red, the Top Santé, all those magazines in the Vogue. They were just, you had them all over the house. You read them cover to cover, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. I mean, we had a thriving newsstand in the UK, and we were kind of one of the drivers of that. I don't think there's many other countries that have quite the newsstand that Britain is known for. I mean, our journalism is the best in the world, I really think. So it was a great place to be. And of course, before the advent of social media and lots of the digital platforms that we're so familiar with now, magazines could be a real lifeline to people because they had a certain tone of voice. And I started on teen magazines and girls magazines. My first job was actually editing Barbie magazine for
Oh
very
my goodness, Barbie magazine. Oh, it's hilarious.
and that was a real responsibility as an editor to convey the material in that magazine in a responsible manner for the child that's gonna consume it, a very impressionable audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Likewise, teen magazines for girls was at a time where you would turn to your copy of Just 17 or Bliss where I worked or Sugar or whatever it was to get all of that information about the facts of life and boys and
Yeah.
kissing,
Oh,
spots and, family
Jackie. I remember Jackie. It was
experience.
Jackie
It
in the
was
magazine. You were like, "Oh my goodness." Yeah, yeah.
they had a huge role to play in people's lives. They were the kind of the first, communities really that the media first saw, and now we have lots of digital communities, but magazine brands had communities of their own all through that time.
But people wouldn't have realized actually how careful you were in what the output was for all the for children then. Whereas I think this is the problem, is it's just so uncontrollable now, whereas it was much more controlled than
Well, I think we are obviously, as we know, a real turning point with regards to, how we use social media and how we keep the online world safe for young people. And I think we will look back on this time and think, oh my God, I can't believe that there weren't these restrictions in place and that it was quite lawless. So I do feel a lot actually for current generations because they are the first to navigate this whole new world. And we do need to find ways to make it safe for them.
So where did you start off? Which magazine did you start with? Was it the teen magazines, Barbie?
Yeah, started in mags, and that was my, yeah, 25-ish, more, probably more than that now. Yeah, year career all in magazines.
And where were the offices? Because it must have been, because I think that's something we also miss now, is that real, camaraderie, fun, working with people, going to the office and have a lot of that has changed, hasn't it? And it must have been such a fun time.
It was a really fun time, and certainly working at EMAP, which was one of the big, magazine publishing houses at the time. When I worked at a magazine called New Woman for a while, and we used to share our offices with FHM and Arena magazine and More magazine and Heat. So it was an amazing time because it felt like we were setting out, the zeitgeist. We were deciding what was in and what was out, and there was a real power to
Yeah,
magazines
yeah, yeah.
all through that time, and it was great fun because we were out and about loads, and, there were amazing press trip opportunities and things like that. I traveled a lot through my career because you were a journalist on the ground, sort of earning your stripes by meeting people and bringing in stories.
And, I remember the subscription from those magazines, I mean, they were quite high. They weren't sort of like, you could have 10 magazines for £19 and have 3 months free. It used to be sort of very expensive, didn't it, to subscribe to the magazines as well. But it was the only way that you got that information. So
And
how did
in touch, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So how did you get into Hello?
So then I got into Hello because I was approached by somebody from Hello when I was at Grazia magazine. So I'd gone from was the kind of was at Red magazine for a period of time, and then I went to Glamour when that was handbag sized, and then I had a call from Grazia saying they were launching this weekly glossy and would I be interested in possibly working there, which I did as executive editor. So used to oversee the entertainment and celebrity content there. And it was while I was at Grazia, I was there for a couple of years, that I got a call from Hello magazine saying that they were looking for a senior editor. And I went across, had an interview, and it felt like a slight leap of faith actually, because Hello is quite an anomaly. Like, it's a family business owned by the Spanish family that began Hola magazine back
Oh,
in
right, yeah.
1994. So it's a lot of rich history there. It was very known for its world exclusive weddings, baby photos, homes, all of that. So I thought that sounded quite fun and interesting. And I think I've always had that spirit of, I'm gonna give this a go, and what's the worst that can happen will be I hate it, well, then I'll move and get a job somewhere else.
That's
So,
so good. That's so
yeah, so I thought I'm gonna give it a go, and little did I know that I would still be there all that time later.
So how long did you do it for?
Nearly 16 years.
It's a long time. Come on, let's hear some of the stories because, I mean, you would have gone into people's homes and been trusted with some really private stuff
Mm.
that, and you had to keep it under wraps presumably, and even some things that you got involved in you probably could never ever talk about. Did you have to sign non-disclosures? How did it all work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did sign some confidentiality agreements, and I've always been really proud and protective of those relationships. And I've never been in it to make a quick buck by selling a story. For me, it has been about forming relationships that I've forged over a number of years through getting involved in very personal moments in their lives and helping the stars convey that moment to their huge fan base in an age before social media, whereas obviously now they have a much closer direct link to all of their fans because they can follow them. But at that time, there was a great power in working with a media brand like Hello that could be your voice effectively to your fan base. So yeah, worked with lots of big names through the huge occasions. Robbie Williams' wedding is one that I often talk about, that was an amazing occasion where only the couple, Robbie and Ida, and their manager and me knew that they were getting married.
Oh
And
my
I
goodness.
to LA to do the interview with them while the wedding was being set up in the gardens in their house. And then, I'm writing up the interview on the plane back to London, so that to oversee all the images that were coming in so that we could quickly go to press and be on the newsstand with it. So we're breaking world exclusives like that. And it's much harder to do that now, obviously, where everybody's a paparazzi and it's harder to keep things genuinely exclusive, or the star will put it out through their own channels. Everybody's a media empire to an extent these days. It's
Well,
been
exactly. It's your own PR. Set up your own channel, your podcast, and your own show. We're all doing it, but
Whereas that wasn't the case,
no.
so we would keep things completely under wraps and until it was ready to be, yeah, announced to the world. So it was really exciting to be on the front line like that as a cross between a newspaper in terms of our short lead times often and a glossy magazine because we would always do things in a very kind of glamorous, high gloss way, which I really loved.
So when you got those sort of jobs, did they just did you pitch for them, or did they come to you? Did people really trusted Hello at that time? Did they?
Yeah. Absolutely, and I was really proud of, yeah, upholding that trust and still am,
Yeah,
in terms of all of my relationships. So it could a whole variety of ways. Sometimes the phone might ring and it was an agent I hadn't spoken before, but they'd know who to call. Other times it would be through my connections and contacts. But it was always a really exciting moment when you get a call and think, oh my God, I've got a really big one. And we'd keep things under wraps even within the team, only letting people know on a need to know basis,
yeah.
and the printers as well, so that nothing could be leaked. And it was just a different era of publishing, really. So I feel
Huge
lucky to have done
responsibility, wasn't it,
that
as
at
well? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And, so at what point did things change for you?
Yeah, well, I think I had just been doing something for a really long time, which is why I'm so passionate about a reinvention mindset now. And I do think we have to look at the way our lives have changed and are going to change because we're all going to live longer. We're talking now a lot about longevity and a longer health span and how we're going to keep vital and well for longer periods because the age expectancy has gone up for both men and women. So we're not going to be retiring at 64. It's unlikely. And we actually know that SNAP data shows us that we're less likely to be happy and healthy and joyful if we do. So, how are we going to build a long, fulfilled, joyful life? Well, the way to do that is to start, first of all, with your mindset. And by adopting a reinvention mindset, you start to see things less as challenges or crises. That idea of a midlife crisis that was kind of a big thing not so long ago. I now see those as opportunities for reinvention. So perhaps instead of it being a crisis, perhaps reinvention is calling and it's time to look at how you do things
Yeah.
and maybe make some tweaks so that you're ready to enter a new chapter. And that's not always easy, obviously, when big things happen to us in our lives and we deal with, health issues or caring responsibilities or burnout, as was my case. But I think I hit that period where I'd been doing something for a really long time. And during that time, I had evolved as an individual and as a woman. I was, now a mum, and I wasn't when I started at Hello. I, moved out of London, was entering a different phase of life where actually that pace of work was at odds with what I needed in my life and what my values are. And as I've opened up about this story, I've realized that there are thousands of people out there feeling exactly the same. But perhaps it isn't a crisis. Perhaps I just needed to do something different and do things differently. But how do we navigate that messy middle bit? Because that can be really tough. And for me, it began tipping into burnout. And I think burnout happens when you're really busy and you're overwhelmed and you're stressed out because you're busy doing things that don't fully align with your values and who you've become and what you need now.
And you change, and this is a big thing, particularly for women, because of the hormonal structure and having children. And I always think, I always said, you always have to reinvent yourself a few times. We're almost forced to reinvent ourselves if we become mothers, because if you
You
get married,
at the moment.
but you have when you're a teenager, but then when you get married, then
Yeah.
if you get married, then you change your name. So you go from one name to another, and so you have to do that. And then you have children, and you have one children, two children. You have to bring your body back, your strength back, and your business, everything. So actually, in a funny sort of way, and then you go through the menopause. In a funny sort of way, I think the advantage we have
the advantage we have, although it can be a disadvantage, is it does make us think about resetting a bit because we have to. Our bodies say, you've got to rethink things differently.
That is true, and if we don't, and things start to really not work, and that's when we do tip into health issues or, stress or burnout or kind of all of these things that can or our sleep begins to suffer and we get negatively impacted. So, I'm now sort of really on a mission to champion this stage of life before burnout or overwhelm or, ill health as a result of stress as an age of reinvention where we start to kind of pick up on those small signals. We listen to those internal voices that are perhaps telling us things are not working as well as they once did. And we have really sort of useful self coaching tools to turn to help us navigate that time. And that's really what I've created with the Pro method, which is my coaching framework and the basis of my new book.
I think it's extraordinary how you've turned it around, and I've seen it a little bit from afar because we've been trying to get together for a couple of years now, and we've eventually got here. Right. And we will meet one day in person very soon, I'm sure. But you obviously do these amazing retreats, and you've set this business up, and you've got some incredible people who've come to all, and you're making big strides and helping so many people, aren't you?
Well, I love it. I mean, that's what happened, instead of I think often so many women that come on my retreats are trying to fit themselves into a new job description or are desperately trying to find that thing. But we have to start with, instead of looking at external sort of things, we have to start with ourselves and what's in here. But to do that takes a moment for yourself. So which is why the opportunity to pause is so essential. And that's what I create that environment on my day retreats for women, where we can be in a room, we can pause, we can have access to really amazing experts in their fields and proper qualified coaches who will enable you to do some really personalized reflection and then we move forward into our organized phase, which is about adopting a growth mindset and putting a plan in place so you can start to take those steps forward. So it's a very proactive
Yeah.
day, but that day to set you on the right track and feel like you're building something and you're part of a community that gets it and is going to support you along the way can be absolutely life changing. And basically, I created it because I saw the gap in the market when it was the thing I was looking for and it didn't exist. And I thought, why is nobody doing this? Why is there not access to, affordable coaching that is aimed specifically at women and understands the challenges that we're going through in midlife? So we look at well-being, in conjunction with career and business goals, because I get that, we take a holistic approach because you bring your full self into that room. It's really hard to
Yeah.
map out your business plans if you're actually in a state of overwhelm and tipping into burnout and think that something's going on with your hormones, but haven't had time to get it checked out. So we cover it all when we take that holistic approach to women's well-being.
And how old are your children now? 10,
So
12?
4 and 10, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And how have they, taken this whole change of your
Oh,
career?
do you know what? It's been amazing, and it's been when I told them that I was gonna resign from Hello, they both cheered, which told me everything, and they said, "So you'll be around more, mummy," and that's what I desperately wanted. I felt I'd earned now a career or a business that I wanted to found. 'Cause I'd been having lots of conversations I'd met lots of female entrepreneurs and founders through my career, and I'd always left those conversations feeling so inspired and a little bit like, "Oh, I wish that was me doing that and running my own business." So it was a massive itch that needed scratching. And I think when you reach midlife and, in my 50s now, you start to realize that time is finite as well, that if you don't start doing it, it's maybe not gonna happen. And so I owed it to my family, my kids, and most of all myself to start to make those steps forward.
Do you know, I've set up something called The Collective because I've done various careers well, had consultancy and worked for my home and husband in the army and all sorts of things. And actually, when you get together with people, you realize that so many people are feeling that. And actually, entrepreneurism is going to be massive for the future, particularly with AI going on. And so everybody's coming out of work and then setting up their lovely, beautiful face oil business or their coaching business, thinking that that's their shop front. And then it's like, and now what? I've got to get customers. And so therefore there's this huge imposter syndrome that comes across and feeling not supported. And I think you and I, we're quite aligned. We maybe should do some things together, because it's really about supporting those people, because actually
It's
everyone, so many people.
Thanks. Yeah, to help as part of my retreats, lots of female founders at very early stages of their business journey come on them. And we have business experts that work with them on the retreats. And I'm going to do a series actually around how to set up like a pro. So for those that want to set up, or maybe they've got the idea, they've been doing something for a year or so, but it needs to move to the next level, which is why I've been so open about my own business journey, because I've been figuring this out as I go along. And I'm lucky to be well connected. And I've had some really great advice, from really amazing people. And I want to bring all of that knowledge and share it with all the women that come on my retreats.
But isn't that lovely? And I think I'm a little bit older than you, and I think that it's just the fact that, you just realise that you've got that time, and actually we're all going to be working for those. And I feel very grateful that I've got that time to be able
Yeah.
to find that, where people are still looking for their purpose. And it's like, well, you just got to put one step in front of the other and do it, and be with people who really support you.
Yeah, but you can't do that when you're overwhelmed and exhausted. And which is why, the PRO stands for pause, reflect, organize. And which is why I'm really passionate about the fact it has to start with the pause. So my next retreat, actually, which is on the 19th of June, is all about how to reset and calm the nervous system. Because
And where do they all take place? Are they in London? Are they where are they?
ones at Corinthia, London, but I do them in different places around the UK. Got a writing retreat in the Cotswolds in November for those that want to write a novel. That's going to be a really special one.
Yeah.
Over 2 nights. I've got an amazing creative writing tutor hosting sessions for that, and I'll be showing my writing journey. I've got a literary agent coming on it too. So there's a real opportunity. So I don't know if you've got a novel in you, but that's going to be a very special one. And yeah, so different places. I'm planning a big one in Derbyshire in October, which will be for a few more women. So we're testing out lots of different price points and ways of running them, but they all follow my pause, reflect, organize format. And which I really believe takes people on a journey through those 3 critical stages that you need to go through to reinvent effectively.
When you've done this, are there some one or two sort of things that you can think of, people that you can think of that have really, there's aha moments for you?
What people or moments?
Well, people, someone's come back to say something that's happened to them through the work you're doing.
Well, yeah, God, I mean, the feedback from the retreats is always overwhelming. I mean, it's 100% positive, and it's always amazing. I think really my biggest aha moment was actually when I just was honest about my own story, because I'd left Hello, and I'd had all the, oh, I'm leaving Hello to have a new chapter, but I hadn't really spoken about why I was leaving and the fact that I was tipping into burnout, all of the work that I'd done on myself through coaching. And it was actually when I first opened up about my own story. I wrote a piece for the Telegraph about a year later, because I was kind of fed up with just having a glamorous image on Instagram, and thought, I want to show the real story here, because that is actually why I'm launching my business.
Yeah.
Actually, because I'd always been the conduit of other people's stories, and I was very used to telling those and very comfortable in that role. But actually everything changed, and I had my big aha moment when I shared my own story and saw the feedback from that, and how
Amazing.
it was, how many people contacted me saying that they felt seen in it. It really made me realize, right, this is my calling. This is what I'm going to do.
You left Hello, and then you were going to do this. How long did it take you to set up? How long did it
Yeah.
well, how long was your pause, actually?
Yeah. Well, my pause initially was when I was signed off work on the brink of burnout with exhaustion. And I was forced to pause then away from work for a couple of months, which isn't a huge amount of time in the scheme of things, but it was enough to just get my well-being back on track, first of all. And that was a real shock to my system, for being someone that had never has a day off sick really, was very healthy, thought, I hadn't been listening to that little voice. I was running on adrenaline, and it all catches up with you because stress lives in your nervous system.
Yeah.
If you ignore the warning signs for long enough, it will come and it will show some physical symptoms and affect your well-being.
Yeah.
It's not like a separate entity that I think I did used to sort of believe it, work stress was sort of over here and your physical health there, and as long as you eat well and go to the gym a bit, you'll be all right. Well, actually, no, stress really impacts your well-being. And I'd never really stopped to think about it because I was just getting on with my life, like,
I
so
know.
what else have to do? So that was an enforced pause, and then resulting in that, I just knew that I couldn't go back to being in that state again, and it was time to tune into that voice saying, "You need to do something different. There's something deeper at the root of this, and that is that your values have evolved, your needs are different. You
Yeah.
just need to be doing something. I mean, your career is such a big part of your life if you work, and if that isn't hitting your values, it's gonna impact you." So coaching was really transformative to me in that journey, and I had access to some coaching. I paid for a coach, and then I really enjoyed it so much that I decided to train to be a coach.
Yeah.
Not sure whether that would be what I actually did at all, but again, I liked the storytelling aspect of it. And I was very honest with my boss at Hello, and lucky I had a strong relationship with him because I'd worked there for so long that I initially went to 3 days a week there for a year, and while I trained to be a coach on the side. And then after a year at 3 days a week, I went to 1 day a week as editor at large. And so I started building my business on the side while I still had, the income from my role at Hello.
I know we're going to have to wrap up in a minute. So I don't want you to leave guests some free things that you'd like to leave them with. But just before I say that, that is incredible that you had a boss like that. I think we just need to acknowledge that because it's quite rare, and that someone has supported you through that. So I think that needs to be recognised too.
Again, it was as a result of coaching that I was able to have the right kind of conversation with him. And so often I see women that, like me, teetering on the edge of burnout, thinking, I don't want to do this job anymore. I feel trapped by it. It's not my identity anymore. But yet I can't afford to just leave my job. Often there is different, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There are different steps that could possibly be open to you if you understand enough about how to negotiate them. And coaching can really provide that an environment to work through the scenarios.
Yeah.
And it enabled me to get real clarity around what I needed and where I was at. And then it opened up a different kind of conversation with my boss.
That's
Like,
incredible.
often you might go into your boss then and say, and ask for a pay rise, or sort of really try and beg for flexible working, which could fall on deaf ears. But I was then able to open up a different kind of conversation around the fact that I had evolved, as had the whole of the media world. Perhaps in me sort of moving into this area of the business could be beneficial for the business, but it also opened up other opportunities for him, around restructuring, which I could see needed to happen as well. But I didn't want to be the person to lead it anymore.
Oh,
'Cause
that's
clear
incredible.
on that. I was clear on that. So that's why I'm so passionate about running my retreats, which are coaching based.
Yeah.
They're not the kind of retreat where you go and you do yoga and
Mm.
things, although we do have those aspects in some of the retreats, but you actually go and do the coaching work with really amazing coaches. And I think personally that you have to start with mindset before you do anything. And coaching helps put you in that mindset, to be able to navigate a period of change or transition.
On that note, what are the 3 things you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, given I'm really, talking about the pro method a lot at the moment, I think it has to be to consider pro, which is pause, reflect, organize. So those are the 3 things I would leave you with before you make any big decisions about your life or even small decisions. I actually kind of talk to my kids about Pro as well, and it can help you navigate all kinds of situations, but you have to pause first. So, and a pause can be as simple as a breath. A breath in and a longer breath out can instantly calm your nervous system. And then a quick reflect. So, even on the topic of what am I going to have for breakfast this morning? In the past, I would reach for the biggest coffee I could find at the station or something, and that would be my breakfast. Whereas now I can do a quick pause, right? What is actually going to set me up best for the day? Take a breath, to reflect what is going to set me up best for the day. These are the options, blah, 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 and then organize. Then I can move forward and go, do you know what? What is going to set me up most for today is a protein smoothie, is easily with some yogurt on it or whatever it is, but just not making knee-jerk decisions.
Yeah,
So
so good.
our decisions from a place of calm and clarity is going to set us up for sustainable vitality, which is what all of us need for this long stretch of life that we've got ahead. So it's a very simple 3-step formula. I have pause, reflect, organize on my bracelet here to remind me, especially to pause and reflect before I go into organize mode.
I love that, and I actually do believe in the power of 3 because it's inspire, engage, and bring people together. It's been my slogan. Believe, hard work, and tenacity can make many things happen. So there is a formula, something very, very inspirational, spiritual about the number 3 as well. So I think that's amazing. Before we go, where can everybody find you?
Well, yeah, through my website, rosienixon.co.uk, and you can subscribe there as well to hear all about the latest retreats and books and things that are going on. I'm on Instagram quite a lot, which is where we first connected,
Yep.
Rosie J. Nixon on there. LinkedIn, yeah, those are probably the places I'm most am. But coming on my retreats is the way that you really get the full benefit of coaching can offer and become part of the reinvention community that I'm building.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I'm sure we're going to be doing lots together because it's just been so nice to connect. And I always
Yeah.
believe that there's a time and a place, and when you're supposed to come together, you come together because that's the right time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's
Thank
really lovely having you on the podcast, and can't wait to see you.